Hello, my name is Olaf Holm, and I am a life flight helicopter pilot based in Spokane, Washington. 11 years ago, I retired from the military, where I started my career as a private in the Army, then retiring 30 years later in 2014 as a colonel and combat search and rescue helicopter pilot in the Air Force. Since then, my wife of 35 years, Jonna, and I have loved our lives in Spokane. We have two sons on active duty in the Army. Andrew and his beautiful wife Haley are currently stationed in New York, and our younger son Eric and his lovely bride Elizabeth are stationed in Georgia. I have been riding motorcycles all of my life, but this last fall my lovely bride allowed me to ride the four corners of the United States, Maine, Florida, California, and back to Washington on my new 2022 BMW R1250 GSA. This video covers that entire trip. You can go to my YouTube channel, Ride with Olaf, and watch all the videos that are made for each of the 27 legs of my journey. I hope you will join me and ride with Olaf. Thank you. All right, we'll see you in New York, sweetheart.
Love you. Be safe.
Will do. I'll be back in 5 minutes for what I forgot.
Okay.
Love you, sweetheart.
I love you.
Bye.
Off you close. Bye-bye.
Oh, there it is. Left the house, going through the neighborhood, making my way east. First road is Interstate 90, crossing over into Idaho, just about a 20-minute drive. And then continued I-90 eastbound through Kellogg and then up through the Lookout Pass that's coming up right up here. One of my favorite ski areas. And here she comes. It's right on the border of Montana and Idaho. You can actually go ski up there, and there's a lodge up there. Half of it's in Montana, half of it's in Idaho. Just a gorgeous day. I mean, it was hot. This is late September, and I thought I was going to need my climb latitude gear, and I was fretting right up until I left. But I ended up with my climb Marrakesh. Two different gears for all the different temperatures. Marrakesh for hot temperatures, and that's what I was wearing on this trip. All the twisties past Missoula, going through the mountains on the highway up there were just what a great way to start. I mean, the blue skies, and I just absolutely love this part of the ride. You're all fresh and excited and nervous. And get through the mountains, and then you're in the plains, southwest of Great Falls, and really not much to see. Stayed at the Officers Club at Malmston Air Force Base. Had a great dinner and a beer, and that was it for that night. All right, day two, going from Great Falls, Montana to Minot, North Dakota. Windy morning, but a beautiful sunrise. Made my way north and then east out of Great Falls, and just had a pretty nice start to the ride, other than the wind was kicking. Stopped at this overlook of the Missouri River, letting me know that I've made it over the Great Divide, and plugged on. Not much to see, quite honestly, in East Montana, and the wind was just kicking from my left. Got to Glasgow, Montana, and I found a nail in my tire, and I had to find a repair. No shops would touch it, but one tire shop did let me use their tools, and I used my own plug kit and pressed on with the travels. Took an extra hour and a half or so, 2 hours off my trip, and I was up against it because I didn't want to ride at night. But I pressed on. My tire held the way to North Dakota, and then I called ahead to Arnie's motorcycle shop in Williston, North Dakota, and they were waiting for me and just did an awesome job and repaired it as soon as I got there. Another hour and a half delay, and I made my way to Minot. I wanted to get there before dark, but that just wasn't the case. And then my good friends Megan and Nick were waiting for me. I had dinner ready, and I stayed at their place, and it was a wonderful visit. Okay, day three, Minot to Bemidji, Minnesota. Started out with breakfast with a friend of mine, Sean, I was stationed with in Afghanistan, and Nick. And and then headed north out of Minot, and then continued west or east towards northern Minnesota, where my dad grew up. Goal was to get to the city of Helma, Minnesota, Lake Bronson. That's where my dad was born and raised, and I wanted to go see the old areas where I used to go when I was a kid. It was good to see Minnesota and the change to all the beautiful farms, and then made it to Lake Bronson, where I went fishing as a kid, caught my first pike there, and then my dad's church where he grew up in, and then I got to see where my grandma Alice and grandpa Olaf were buried, and didn't have much time. I had to continue to press and went down towards Bemidji. Day 4, Bemidji, Minnesota to Gaylord, Michigan. Long day, 630 some miles, but through some beautiful country. Started out with about 37 degrees and this glorious sunrise and the mist over the top of the trees. Just one of my favorite videos of the whole trip. Cleared up by the time I got to Duluth, Minnesota, and then crossed the bridge right there next to Lake Superior and made my way into Wisconsin. First stop in Wisconsin, about an hour into it, was Ashland, Wisconsin, where I stopped at the iconic Quick Trip and a library, and then just continued to enjoy the glorious fall colors all the way to the Michigan border. I got so excited when I got to the Michigan border, though, I stopped at this sign because it was the first one I could actually stop at, and dropped my bike. A Harley driver had to stop and see if I needed any help, but I got it back up. Continued east, tried to get through before the dark hit, but did enjoy a beautiful sunset on Lake Michigan just before we crossed into the Mackinac Bridge. I speed up the videos for the bridges because I want to capture all the bridge, and that was just a beautiful sight. I do that for all the bridges that we go through. But again, it was dark by the time I got to the hotel down in Gaylord. Okay, day 5, Gaylord, Michigan to Rochester, New York. Plan here is to go just north of Detroit, head east into Ontario, Canada, cross into Canada and go down to Buffalo, New York area, Niagara Falls, and then try to get as close to Watertown, New York as I could. In this case, made it to Rochester. Kind of a bumbling time going through the borders as usual, but it was kind of cool crossing over the bridge and crossing into Ontario, Canada. A bit busy, but we had, no problems. And then getting into the countryside over in Canada, one of the things I was trying to figure out was, how do I reset my speedometer into kilometers? Now, I could do it on my phone, but you'd think a BMW, you could do that, but I honestly never figured it out. So I was always kind of worried if I was going to get pulled over for a ticket. Just maintain the speed of the traffic and no problems. It is so cool going over to Canada. It's just the little things that are different. Everything's in kilometers, and it was a lot easier pace than riding on the interstate coming into Canada. So it was a real pleasant drive through the countryside. Made it my way down to Niagara Falls and did the tourist thing. Hard to make sure your bike is secure, but anyway, had a really, really cool visit there, but it was getting dark and I had to press on. So I got on the interstate and almost ran out of gas. Made it to Rochester, New York. Okay, day 6 and 7, Rochester, New York to Watertown, New York. Short ride, but going to go see my son, his wife, and his 2 kids, and my wife is actually up there in Watertown visiting at the time. So took off north of Rochester, kind of a misty morning, hooked up with some Harley guys, and then just enjoyed the view of the small towns as I made my way northeast. And then one of the things you notice, the different type of buildings and whatnot, and the other really cool things, you're in the Amish country, and you got to be careful as you pass the carriages. But that was super cool. Got on the interstate real quick thereafter and made it to Watertown just around lunchtime. And that was just awesome to see my 2 grandsons and my wife at my son's house in Watertown, New York, Andrew, his wife Haley, and his 2 kids. And that was just a sweet time. Spent 2 nights there with my grandsons, went to the zoo with my wife, and my young little grandson just loved my bike. It was a pretty neat time. And but it was time to get going. wonderful visit with my grandsons, my wife, and my son and his wife. But it was time to leave Watertown and head north. The first of the four corners, Madawaska, Maine. To do that, the plan was to go north up into Canada, this time up into Quebec, and made my way eastbound, northeastbound out of Quebec towards Quebec City. Now, I'd heard all about Quebec City years ago, and heard it was a beautiful place, but I really didn't have it as a plan to go there. But since I was right there, I decided to take a break and go just into the city. So I kind of went off my route and crossed this beautiful bridge, and then made my way to what they call the old town of Quebec City, Old Quebec City. And let me tell you something, I've been all over the world, stationed in Germany 3 times, Iceland, Korea, and I've been all over North America, obviously. And I got to tell you that Quebec City, Old Quebec City, is probably the most beautiful city that I've ever been to in North America. And I was just struck by that when I got there. What a glorious fall day. The people are out walking, all the markets and the cafes. I literally felt like I was back in Europe. In fact, French is all they speak in Quebec. And that was a little bit of a challenge, but not too bad. And just thoroughly enjoyed it. And this is one of the places that I plan on going back to with my wife. We're just going to have to go up and visit Quebec City. And if you ever feel the need that you want to go see Europe, but you don't want to take the time to go all the way to Europe, think about going to Quebec City. I tell you, it's just absolutely charming, and thoroughly enjoyed my visit there. But I got to press, got to go to Madawaska, Maine. So left out of there, beautiful highways in Quebec province, Canada, and made my way back down towards the United States in Madawaska. This saved a whole day of travel by going through Canada versus going through Vermont. Now, Vermont would have been awesome, but again, I'm limited on this big resource. It's called time. So here I am crossing back into the border, into the United States at Madawaska, and just a neat little trip through there. Went to the Four Corners Park. So it's just right outside the gate here, and stopped and got a picture. Now, the Four Corners Park was closed for the season. I was the only bike there, and that was kind of cool. And then I stopped at Du Bois Restaurant and Inn, stayed there that night, and had a great visit. All right, day 9, Madawaska, Maine to Northampton, New Hampshire, where my sister-in-law lives. Started out at the memorial, where I held up my Class of '84 letter. The whole big part of this trip was to go to my high school reunion, which is in October 40th. But made it out of Madawaska. It was a bit foggy, but no rain. Really nice drive. And just thoroughly enjoyed the countryside heading down south. Ended up in Freedom, Maine at the Lost Kitchen. If you happen to know that, it's the Lost Kitchen's on Magnolia Channel. I met Aaron French's mom, Deanna Richardson. She was awesome. And then made my way down south of Freedom and down into crossover to New Hampshire, to Northampton, New Hampshire, where I met up with my sister-in-law, Kiska, and her husband, Frank, stayed at their beautiful home for the evening. Leaving Frank and Kiska's house from Northampton, made my way towards Columbus, New Jersey, southbound. Got up super early to avoid the Boston traffic. Made my way around, I think it was on 495, and then down to the south. Found myself a beautiful highway, going through the fall colors. And I was really surprised. I was able to make it to the Sawmill River Parkway south. No industrial traffic coming into New York City, and that was just a fantastic, beautiful ride. I'd never taken that road before, and made my way into New York and saw the George Washington Bridge. I wasn't going to stop in New York. Plan was to keep going, just get on the bridge, hit to New Jersey. Didn't want to be driving around in New York. But here I go. Decision. Left George Washington Bridge, right George Washington Bridge. No, wait. Okay, I got to go over to the far right, and I can't make it to the far right, even though the left lane would have worked. End up in downtown New York. I mean, just on the fringes, but yeah, I'm in mega traffic, and I'm thinking I got to get the hell out of here. Came up on a bus and stopped. This lady's walking in front of me. I'm going. I'm bustering. I think the bridge is right there. Wah, past this bus. I'm sure I broke a few laws and made some people upset, but yeah, eventually got up on the George Washington Bridge and back towards New Jersey, where we lived, say, 2011 to 2014, my last assignment in the Air Force. Another quick trip across the bridge. Onto the New Jersey Turnpike South. Had to stop at one of our favorite places, the Wawa in New Jersey. Right here is the Air Advisor Memorial, where I helped, I designed this and had it built, raised the money for it. My wife and I, my kids all helped build it to raise awareness for 9 of my colleagues that were gunned down in Afghanistan. And I stayed at the Edwards home in New Jersey, right out in Columbus, and had dinner with them, with Jack, Carrie, and Kevin. Had a really good evening, and it was good to be kind of home in a way. All right, left my friends Kevin and Carrie in Columbus, New Jersey, and headed south to Florence, South Carolina. That'll be a long ride today, about 600 plus miles again. Started out riding with Jack, my friend and fellow advisor. He was my instructor for the Air Advisor course and became one of my cadre when I was the commandant of the Air Advisor Academy. Jack's ridden more BMWs more than anybody I've ever known, literally hundreds and hundreds of thousands of miles. This is his K1600, his latest sweetheart BMW. Crossed over into Delaware, and we actually got separated for a little bit, but we met for breakfast. Had a really nice visit with him, and then I continued on south on the Washington-Baltimore Parkway, which is a beautiful drive. I've been to Washington several times, so I didn't need to stop there. Crossing over into Virginia, then to North Carolina and South Carolina. Boy, I tell you, when you cross into the Mason-Dixon line, I was still wearing my warmer gear, latitude jacket, so I had to stop and get changed into my Marrakesh climb gear for the summer. And just the temperature changes, the views, are really remarkable. And getting back into the deep south. Made it to Florence that night and called it a night. All right, day 12, Florence, South Carolina to Harlem, Georgia, actually Augusta, Georgia. Real quick trip to go visit my son and his wife Elizabeth. They had just gone through traumatic Hurricane Helena, and a tree went right through his roof. My wife came down to visit as well, and she was going to stay, but we couldn't stay. If you can see, the house looks so good from here, but a big tree went right through the roof in the garage and just missed their master bedroom bed by 10 feet. They were okay. I was so thankful that they were all right. But I just stayed for a night, went out to lunch with Elizabeth and my son Eric and my wife, and had a nice visit. And I was actually able to go for a ride with Eric. He's got an F700 GS that he had just gotten. That's how he got around in the hurricane. But time to move on and get on further south. Day 13, Harlem, Georgia to Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Today I was moving out to go down to Fort Walton Beach. I'm going to head out west on the interstate, on Interstate 20. A nice quiet morning, but I had to stop at a Staple, go to nothing else but the Waffle House. Had a nice breakfast at the Waffle House, and then continued on south on some backcountry roads, making my way through beautiful Georgia, passing through horse pastures and pecan fields, and just was a great ride until I got down to Alabama, and then I went to what is Fort Rucker, Alabama to me, but is now Fort Novosel, where I went to flight school. I went to the U.S. Army Aviation Museum, visited something close to my helicopter. I flew an HH-60 Pavehawk, that was an MH-60. Made my way down to Fort Walton Beach. My buddy Eric, retired 2-star general. We went cruising around the waterway down there at Fort Walton Beach. just had a lovely evening, finished up with dinner with him and his beautiful wife, Lisa, and just had a really, really nice evening. Day 14 for Walton Beach to Memphis, Tennessee. I had to make this decision. It wasn't really mine. Hurricane Milton turned off the whole south route to go to southern Florida to Key West, so I had no choice. So this is as far south as I could get, Navarre Beach, Florida. Right up here coming up, this is going to be my soft corner of the Four Corners ride. That little place on the right's got the best grouper sandwiches, been there for many, many years. Pagoda Beach place with volleyball and everything. But Navarre Beach is just what's going to be. It is. I mean, down to the south, it looks beautiful. I'm looking due south right there, and the ocean's just on the other side of the berm. But Hurricane Milton was a Category 5 this day, and I was not heading south. So, time to head north, going back up to Interstate 10, go west, finally heading west on my trip. Bummed I couldn't make it to Key West, but let's keep moving. Had a nice little drive. Of course, you get up into Mobile. Mobile's always got some pretty serious traffic with that tunnel and the bridge and whatnot. Made my way past there and went some back roads up towards Memphis, Tennessee. All right, rolling into Memphis. Beautiful city. Was able to find a hotel just on the outskirts of town, and then I ended up taking an Uber to downtown, and I was able to go to the big, huge outdoor World Bass Pro Shops Haven, and walked around Memphis, and then walked over to Beale Street and Blue Cities Cafe, Memphis, Tennessee, which is a really, really awesome. Wanted some catfish and ribs, and then kind of had a good time on Beale Street. It was a great day. Really enjoyed be able to make it to Memphis. Day 15, Memphis, Tennessee to Oklahoma City. Really making my way west now, crossing over the Mississippi River. Real beautiful bridge right outside of Memphis, and then into Arkansas. Arkansas to Oklahoma. We end up going through the Ozarks, and then you really see the terrain starting to change as you look at it. It flattens out quite a bit, and the trees start getting a little less dense. And just really get a sense that you're heading into the Midwest on this particular ride. Okay, rolling into Oklahoma City, find a nice Best Western hotel, and I turned my BMW in to get its 12,000 mile service, and had a real nice time talking to some folks at the hotel bar. Day 16, Oklahoma City to Tucumcari, New Mexico. I had a late start today because I picked up my bike. A little bit upset about how much they charged me for my 12,000 mile service. Thought it was excessive. But anyway, I-40 eastbound, watching the terrain change even more from the lush green of Arkansas, Ozarks, to the flat plains of Oklahoma and north panhandle of Texas. Just enjoyed to watch the transformation as it goes from the panhandle to start seeing mesas into New Mexico. We were stationed in New Mexico, so it really feels like I'm kind of coming home when I hit New Mexico. Short ride today, day 17, Tucumcari, New Mexico to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Just transition through the desert again. You kind of get into some flat desert, and then it starts getting more mountainous as you get close to Albuquerque and the Sandia Mountains. Just enjoy the ride. Coming down the hill on the backside of the Sandia Mountains coming into Albuquerque. First stop was my favorite barbecue place, Rudy's, and my good friend Gerb. He and I had been known each other for 30 years or so from our rescue Air Force days, and he bought me lunch. And then I went by our old house up in northwest Albuquerque and made it to the Balloon Fest, Balloon Glow, and made it just in time in the parking lot to watch it happen, but I couldn't get in until after the Balloon Glow was finished. But I did get a chance to see the drone show, which was absolutely phenomenal. All right, day 18, Albuquerque, New Mexico to Moab, Utah. Gonna head north this time. Have a little bit of time since I didn't make it to Key West. Started out with the mass ascension for the Balloon Fest going on in Albuquerque. Doesn't really capture it very well here, but it was pretty amazing. And then hit one of my favorite diners, Wax, for Christmas chili. That's red chili and green chilies, or an egg dish, which was fantastic. And then headed west on I-40, and then broke off and started going north. First to the Navajo Forest, and then making my way to the National Monument. My goal today was to get to where Forrest Gump did that scene in the film where he turns around and he says, "I'm a bit tired. I think I'm gonna go home now." So that was my goal, and it's actually on the map. And just worked my way through New Mexico and Arizona, and just, I mean, fantastic views. Pretty desolate. They actually have it marked where Forrest Gump turned around and said, "I'm tired now." And anyway, this is the point right here is where he stopped and turned around, and it was my goal to make it to there. Next stop was going to be up in Moab with my buddy Sean, who's from Albuquerque, but he was up here and he let me stay at his condo with his buddies that were up riding all around Moab, and that was an awesome visit. All right, day 19, Moab to St. George, Utah. I got to tell you, I think this is probably the most beautiful ride of the whole trip. Saying goodbye to my buddies at Moab. Went through Moab here, and boy, it's a busy town. It was just I can't remember what day it was, but it was pretty damn busy. But this trip was just amazing. Coming in through these canyons, all these different gorges and flat deserts. It reminded me of the movie Cars. I think that's where it's set in. And I just was awestruck. And so what I want to do is just sort of shut up and let you listen to some music and see how beautiful it went through. this Highway 12 is just amazing. You come up on top of this plateau, and on to the left and to the right, Highway 12 Calf Creek, you're basically in this little narrow strip where they put a road, and it's a cliff on either side. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. All right, day 20, St. George, Utah to Las Vegas, Nevada. Another short trip, but an incredible day, let me tell you. You know what I missed? I didn't record the canyon right out of St. George on the way to Arizona and Nevada. You actually go through Arizona and then back to Nevada. But made my way towards Valley of Fire State Park, not far from where I was stationed at Nellis Air Force Base. And we used to ride our helicopters, fly our helicopters right through this canyon at a pretty low level, and really one of the most beautiful state parks anywhere in the country. Just really enjoy that place. But made on my way to Vegas, and linked up with, stayed with a friend of mine, Dirk and Lori, and I was stationed with him in Iceland and Albuquerque. One of my dear friends stayed at his place, and then was able to. We went out, he took me around town, we went got my burger fix at In-N-Out Burger, and he took me by my old house, where our first house we ever bought was in Vegas, 96, and then I went to the memorial at Nellis Air Force Base for Jolly 38 and 39. And then a really cool thing was able to happen. I was able to go fly with this young man, Josh, to my left. He met me on a scene call when I was flying in Idaho, and he said, how do I become a helicopter pilot? So I gave him some advice, and he ended up going to the University of North Dakota, and now he's a full-fledged pilot and flying me around on a Vegas tour over the Sphere right there and Stratosphere. And I'm just so proud of him. He's building up his time, and we hope to be hiring him at Life Flight, I would imagine, this coming summer. But I saw him from when he just graduated high school to wanting to become a pilot. He went on UND, got his 4-year degree, became an instructor, and now he's got a wife, and they just had a child this couple weeks ago, and hope to be moving back up to Spokane. So what a thrill to be able to ride with him on a strip tour that he was able to arrange for me for free, because he's a nice guy. But following the strip tour with Josh, there he is right there. What an awesome time. Did a biggest strip tour on my bike. Almost got killed.
Jesus.
Jesus, also referred to as Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, and many other names and titles, was a first-century Jewish preacher and religious leader. Should I keep going?
No, thank you, Siri. Appreciate that.
All right, survived my Las Vegas strip tours, and decided to make my way south, avoiding LA at all costs. Beautiful morning before the temperature started rising, but man, it got hot quick. Was thinking about my grandpa about this time. He went to the Hoover Dam back when it was being built. I'll share a quick picture of that. And he's my inspiration for being a motorcycle rider all my life. But made my way south to Lake Havasu because I wanted to go see the tower or the Lungden Bridge. And I'll have to say it was kind of a mistake because it was hot as hell. And there's the Lungden Bridge. Havasu Lake was pretty. The tributary or the river for Lake Havasu was nice. But I got stung by a bee in my helmet, and it was like 98 degrees the entire time. Going through the dunes was really cool, but the best part I think was getting out of the desert and start climbing the mountains on Interstate 8 up in right here and getting up into some higher elevations. The temperatures dropped by 20 degrees by the time I got to the top of this hill, and the gas prices doubled to $6 a gallon when I made it to California. From there, transition to the cooler ocean air. You could literally smell the salt air, and come down into San Diego for my third corner. Ended up staying at Coronado Island outside of San Diego at the Naval Air Station, and had a very nice relaxing evening and set up for turning north tomorrow. All right, day 22, San Diego, California to Salinas, California. Hit my southwest point right there in the southern tip of California, Silver Strand State Beach Park, and that was my southwest corner of the Four Corners ride. And then started up a lovely trip on I-5 northbound through San Diego in rush hour traffic. Very difficult to negotiate, especially with all the lane splitters, which I didn't do. They were just guys that were supposed to be going just 5 to 10 miles above the speed of the traffic, and they were going 60, 70. So that was a new thing for me. Anyway, but made my way up through LA, up through the mountains above Santa Barbara, into Solvang, which is a Danish themed town, and had lunch with Wade Cook, who is the CEO of That Others May Live Foundation, one of the organizations I've been trying to raise awareness for. But then out of Solvang, we headed north on 101 all the way up to Salinas and just enjoyed the countryside. It was actually a very pleasant ride north of Solvang through the wine countries, and really enjoyed the trip. Day 23, Salinas, California to Fort Bragg, California. Out the gate, right out of Salinas, just south of San Francisco, hit the wonderful traffic I-280 northbound. Can't plan on being anywhere at any time. It just was stop and go for the longest time. But I did meet up with my friend Don at Woodside, California, at an awesome brunch. He told me to go up by Alice's restaurant just outside of there, and then this awesome twisties on this La Honda Road westbound to Highway 1. And then once I got on Highway 1 and headed north up to the Golden Gate Bridge. First glimpse of the ocean on the coastal highway, which was awesome. But I tell you what, getting into San Francisco was cool, but getting on the Golden Gate Bridge, I was thinking about just a week or so earlier. I just was over the George Washington Bridge on my motorcycle, so that was just really, really cool. I've been over the Golden Gate a couple times, but having done the George Washington Bridge in New York, I don't know, it was like 10 days earlier, made it kind of special. Then worked my way north on Highway 101, and just about 60 miles up, took off a side road and hit the twisties going through wine country, which was probably, I would say, the best road of my entire trip, this road right here. It was so much fun. The temperature was perfect. There was no wind. The wine country going into the redwood forest. It was just like a dream ride as I made my way up to Fort Bragg, California. Had a wonderful dinner of scallops and stayed at an oceanside little motel to end a perfect day. Fort Bragg to Brookings, day 24. Another perfect day of weather. So I made my way up the coastal highway into the redwoods. It was just another perfect ride today. In fact, I'm probably just going to shut up and let you enjoy it. What an incredible ride and day. Made it up to the Oregon border, my home state where I grew up, and then found my dear friends David at Tamara's house in Brookings, Oregon, and stayed the night. Day 25, Brookings, Oregon to Portland, Oregon, my 40th high school reunion I was going to. And wow, you know, I hadn't had rain for the entire ride from Spokane all the way to this point until tomorrow, until I got to Seattle, some 10,000 miles. And I got no rain, especially on the Oregon Coastal Highway. This is amazing. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. I'll talk to you when we get up to Portland. Okay, going through Willamette Valley, I stopped in Monmouth, Oregon, at my alma mater for my undergrad degree at Western Oregon University. It used to be Western Oregon State College. Made my way up I-5 and then cut on over on Fremont Bridge, a beautiful bridge that I actually saw constructed when I was a kid. Came in my old neighborhood, northwest Portland. My house is off to the left, where my first memories, but pretty cool to drive around town and see my old beautiful neighborhood. And right up here is Wallace Park. I actually played basketball when I was in 7th grade with Bill Walton. He came up and just shot hoops with me. Also hit my very first home run from this diamond right here when I was like in the 3rd grade. Then made my way down to Lucky Lab Brewery for my 40th high school reunion. My lovely bride was there. I met some great friends. Alex and Michelle were both All-American swimmers, amazing. Robin went to kindergarten with her all the way through, and there's Fremont Bridge from her place. Day 26, Portland to Blaine, Washington. Final corner. Started out with breakfast with my dear friend Brian. We've been best friends since I was 3. Crossed right over into Vancouver, Washington. Last state crossing, going into my home state of Washington, where we live now. And right after that, made my way up I-5 and ran into my old recruiter, Sergeant Rick Frody, now Sergeant Major retired, and Ant-Man, who I was stationed with in Afghanistan. And Ant-Man picked me up, and we went riding through Seattle. first rain I'd hit for the entire ride. Was just south of Seattle, north to Blaine. No surprise there. But yeah, had a really good time riding with him. And I wish I had more time to spend with him, but needed to continue to press. I had to get back to work in just a day. So yeah, finished that ride with him and made my way north.
Hey, brother. Hi, Ole. Hey, bro.
All right, making my way up I-5 into Blaine, Washington to the Peace Arch State Park, the last corner, only to find it closed. But that's okay. Got at a great Indian restaurant for dinner that night, and on day 27, final day of the trip, Blaine, Washington to my hometown of Spokane. Started out Peace Arch State Park, was open. Nice lady that owns a coffee shop held a little arch for me above my bike because you can't ride your bike actually to the Peace Arch. And so she comes out, and for the riders, she'll hold a little arch above your bike and buy little trinkets from her and a coffee. Made my way south on I-5 and then eastbound on Highway 2 through Stevens Pass. And I got to tell you, this is the coolest transformation of environment anywhere in the United States. Is that ride through Stevens Pass. You do the same thing in Columbia Gorge, but when you come through from the rainforests on the Pacific side of the Cascades, and you come up over this pass, there's just like an immediate transformation from Douglas fir to pine trees to desert. And I'm just going to let you enjoy it. I'll talk to you again when we get to Leavenworth. Pulling in to Leavenworth. It's a German-themed town on the east slope of the Cascades on Highway 2. It's one of my very favorite places to take my family, especially my wife. She loves the German Christmas markets and the Post Hotel, which is a spa. If you're ever trying to plan for a around-the-country trip around the United States on your motorcycle by yourself, take her to the Post Hotel. Probably able to get a yes out of her. But huge transformation again on the east slope. Look, it's all sunny and really got warm. I had some cold weather gear on. I had to take a lot of it off as I was making my way on Highway 2 to Wenatchee. It's a pretty cool transformation, and just love the scenery. Unfortunately, as I was coming into Wenatchee, I ran across a motorcycle accident, had to stop and help a young lady that was in pretty bad shape. Was there until the emergency services showed up. And then boom, look at this. It's like we're in Arizona highways. This is just across the river from Wenatchee, making my way back towards I-90. On the right side, we had all sorts of vineyards and apple orchards. It's just really amazing how that area has been transformed into a huge production for wine and fruit. And then look at this. Next second, just literally about 20, 30 minutes later, you're out in the open desert. We call it the Big Brown. Literally no trees from this point all the way until you get into Spokane. It's starting to get dark on me. And then just what we always refer to when I call my wife when I'm coming back from Moses Lake, I said, I'm in the trees, which is about 20 minutes southwest of Spokane. No trees, and then boom, you're in trees start popping up all the way until you get into town. and that's just kind of a nice feeling, like I'm getting close. And this is coming down I-90, one of the great scenes. You can't really pick it up, but you're looking at the lights of downtown Spokane, and off in the distance is Beacon Hill, and that's where my house is. And it's kind of neat to think I did my first video driving on I-90 going eastbound or westbound, and now here I am coming eastbound. So I started out this whole trip by right here on Interstate 90 talking about my trip, and here I am reversing the course, and here I am coming home.